Okay. Yeah. What happened?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the first time I ever did DMT. I just it was in Atlanta. Did I tell you about this yet at all?
No, you told me you tripped in Atlanta, but did you also take acid while you were there?
Yes, actually. I
Okay.
did.
Okay, that's what I heard. Okay.
But no, yeah, yeah. I mean, this has happened before, but not with DMT. I've never done DMT. I've been kind of scared to do it because I get kind of motion sickness, or I get vertigo if I feel like I'm going, space and time is being extended in front of me.
Yeah.
And distance becomes a thing. I had some fears about it, but honestly, there's nothing to be afraid of because you don't move. I mean, you don't feel like you're moving, even if you're rushing. You don't feel like you're moving at all. There was no fear whatsoever. But yeah, just like. Have you done it before?
No, I'm scared of it too, honestly.
There's nothing to be afraid of. I thought so.
Really?
I thought so too. I was just scared of seeing something that would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Being confronted with my fears directly, or seeing distance and like height. I have some fears of height, so I was scared of being blasted out into space and feeling like I'm not grounded in my body anymore. And nothing like that happened. Absolutely nothing. But I also didn't do an excessive amount. But I took like 5 to 6 hits off of a pipe, and I inhaled very deeply on all those hits. I probably took 10 hits, but 5 of them were light at first, and then the last 5 were heavy hits. So I took a lot of DMT. It took about 5 or 6 minutes for me to take all the hits.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go as far as I could.
Right.
And we had a lot, actually, a surplus. So I didn't want to waste it either.
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to hit it at first.
Yeah.
But I started to notice it kicking in because my breath started to become very deep. I started to want to breathe in extremely deep breaths through my nose and out through my mouth. And I was like, breathing feels so good. I just need to take these big breaths. And every time I would exhale, everything would start changing. But the moment anything started to change, I had the natural intuition to cover my face with a blanket, so all I saw was darkness. I don't know why I did that, because even before I started to see anything, I did that. I just covered my face with a blanket, and as soon as I saw complete darkness, I saw thermofluidic material, thermofluidic living material. I saw liquid, electric liquid material moving, I guess from the camera view in this direction, as if the camera was my eye. And there were eyes actually moving in the liquid that were looking at me like this as it was moving through the liquid, and it noticed that I was looking at it.
Whoa.
It noticed. It was like, wow, you see me. And I was like, but the color of it was a metallic color that is not in this dimension. It was a higher octave of a color that was somewhere between like ultra gold, ultra silver, ultra blue, ultraviolet, all the ultras. And but yeah, there was this liquid fluidic material. There were some symmetrical dives down through some space-time curvatures I saw, where there's some kind of fabric that was kind of like a topography that I was moving through, but it was all changing. And at one point, I mean, it was so beyond. It's just really hard to remember, as most people say, because it's hard to convert this light frequency into the visible spectrum. And what you're seeing is definitely living. There's a lot of eyes, and they're looking at you, or they're moving, and it seems like everything is living and alive, and looking at you and documenting you in a way. And near the end, the most like visible forms that one could easily pick out, rather than thermofluidic living beings with eyes. I was in a forest near the end, with these long, thin trees and light pouring through them, and I heard a sound in my left ear in the distance through the trees, and in my mind I pictured somebody with a bone through their nose with some kind of satchel on, running through the forest.
Whoa.
And so that was over there on this side of me. And I heard that, and I was I felt completely safe. Hearing these hallucinations and seeing these hallucinations were not they were not alarming whatsoever. I felt completely comfortable. It's a very nurturing feeling. The breath, it makes you appreciate breathing and taking in, being alive on Earth and breathing in oxygen as a human being. You experience that as like a first time thing.
Whoa.
Where it's almost like your first time taking a breath. And you realize the bliss of breathing in, you know, and there's nothing, you feel that the whole time, so it's a beautiful feeling, very comforting. There's nothing scary about it whatsoever.
Wow.
At all.
That's amazing.
It's the opposite. It's like nurturing.
Yeah.
And so I was in the trees, and even though I was seeing probably like a bogey in my, you know, on my 9 o'clock here, you know, no fear whatsoever. Even if it looked like this person was in a hunting position, maybe a little bit, that it saw me, that was a little bit scared of me, I felt utter peace. Because I was in this forest, I didn't think that it was a hallucination. I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, I'm just hallucinating, so I don't have to be scared. I just naturally felt extremely at peace. But then the person that I was with, I had the blanket over my eyes, but I just heard her start singing this Egyptian microtonal, this Arabic microtonal melody that was like that kind of thing. And then all the trees transformed into blue, thick columns, like the Temple of Karnak in Luxor, Egypt.
Whoa.
These blue cylindrical columns with light pouring through them, and then that guy turned into a robed being that was then floating through the columns. This robed person.
Whoa.
And they were shifting and transforming, and that was like, and there was some gold in there too. That was like the thing that I saw that is like, that I was told that the reason why I should do it is because there are some Egyptian features or some ancient architectural features that you can see in there.
Yeah.
And the blue columns like that looked just like Luxor were just absolutely mind blowing. That was the part where I was just, and that was the very last thing I saw. You know, when I opened my eyes, everything was the same.
Yeah.
Just when the blanket was over my eyes, I just saw that.
Closed eyes.
You know, everything was a little disoriented when I was looking at it, but not really.
Yeah.
You can come out of it pretty quick, actually.
Yeah.
But there's no talking. I mean, you can't interact with anybody when you're doing it. You're completely in your own sphere. Somebody else that did the exact same amount that you did at the same time, you can't interact with them whatsoever. You can't even try to touch them. You can't, nothing. You are completely in your experience.
Yeah.
And you have to stay within that. Because once you try to, you don't want to break that 10 minutes
right.
of what you're experiencing. But yeah, it's
wow.
It's amazing.
I love how it went from the like forest and the forest and like the ancient indigenous hunter-gatherer to like futuristic.
It looked like,
you know?
Yeah, I went from like, 20,000 years ago to like, like 3,000, it was like 5,000 years ago. And then I just saw those Luxor columns and it was that was truly mind-blowing to see that, because I just I thought that you would maybe see, a lot of people have told me they've seen a column, a dome temple-like structure with light pouring in, and then the hallway of columns that they can go through and see a light at the end. That's just something that all the ancients have made, these gateways, these never-ending, seemingly eternal representations of eternity through columns from what they've seen in their mind. Because all the people around the world have seen the same thing when they released DMT in their pineal gland, is this gateway or a hallway of columns. The Egyptians called it Ma'at, which is the chamber between life and death. It's like the underworld, the chamber of Ma'at, and it looks like a library of columns, how they represent it, or how it's represented nowadays, I guess. So it's probably not accurate to what they thought, but it's still that's still how they describe it. And if you look at all the temples around the world, they have the same structures as what I saw in there. It looked like an average between all of them, but they were thick. The thin trees turned into thick columns.
Okay, so the trees directly turned into the columns.
Yeah, like all the trees just all of a sudden turned into blue columns that were huge and thick and long, and had hieroglyphs on them.
Whoa. Dude, that's so fucking sick.
And light pouring through. the blue light. It was just.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Have you ever? Because I know you make the animations. Have you ever like tried to like create that?
I mean, it just happened like less than 2 months ago.
Oh, really?
I've been
Okay.
working on some other, but I did make a piece just before that called Ezekiel's Vision for the Phantom Limb, and that there's a rogue being that goes through columns in that video, and that is what I saw. I finished that video within weeks before doing that experience.
Okay.
So I kind of saw some things of what I put in the video. There wasn't any blue columns like that, but there was some parts where like there are these arches and a road being comes out and you see clouds transforming behind the.
Okay.
I didn't see that.